peachydragon.com. Happy creative stuff.
Hey, and welcome to another exciting episode of Happy Creative Stuff. So we're still doing the tutorial on the Powerpuff Girls 3D. Looks a little bit something like this.
Alright girls, that's the last of the finishing touches.
So we've already done a video on research and how to prepare to do it and how to get your reference material. And then I did one video on how to put your reference material into the program, into 3D Studio Max. So now let's look at modeling. In this case, I already have a model, so I put it in here next to the reference material just as a point of reference for the model that we're building, so you'll see what I'm aiming at. You can see in the top view that it's here in the corner. It doesn't interfere with the area that we need to work in. So first of all, let's look at creating the head. I'll give you details on specific tips that will help as we go. So first of all, that's a sphere, not a geosphere. Geosphere works different. So sphere, and whichever camera you click on to create it, that's going to be the camera towards which the top is pointing. So in this case, if I click there and I drag it, you'll see the top of the circle points there. Now there are different ways to get this circle to be translucent, which will help us to animate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one that works quite well for me these days. What you do is you create a special material just for modeling. So let's click there. I think I have one here, it's called reference material, but okay, I'm just going to reset it to what it would be. That's a normal material. I made the color white, so you can just click on your color, make it white, drag that onto the circle. So you'll see that's a bit better. What this is, by the way, just in case you've got something else, if you push F3, you'll see this is a shaded version. And if you don't have edged faces, you'll see you can click there and you can turn on edged faces or not. I prefer having edged faces on for this, but it depends on what you're doing at the time. So I drop that material onto there, and then you can go to your material and you can turn down the opacity. So you can turn it down as low as you need it to be to model properly. You might want to have a little bit of opacity there. There you go. See, now if I'm on this general perspective view, excuse me, that was not what I wanted. You can see it just gives you an idea of what's going on. I can also turn on edged faces on this if I wanted to. You can have it on any window, but you don't need it all the time. Okay, so here we go, we've got our sphere. Now you can see the head is a little bit squashed according to this reference material. I'm going to zoom in on this one as well. Now let's position this head first of all. So we've got the bottom aligned and the sides are aligned. And then before we change anything about it, let's just check. Okay, I'm pretty happy with all the details of it. I'm going to right click and turn it. No, wait, I'm not going to do that yet. Let's just take the squash control, squish it a bit, and bring it down into position. Okay, I think it's a little bit wide. For that, I'm just going to change the radius here. I'm not going to squash it. Okay, now you might see that on the side view, the reference plane isn't quite lined up because the bottom of that and the top of that should also be perfectly aligned here, and it isn't. So I'm going to move the reference material and get it to a point where it lines up better. That should be fine. Okay, so we've got a head. That was pretty damn easy. Now let's look at the body. What I suggest you do is, let's look at what we're going to end up with. It's pretty much a long tube. So we can use a cone for that as well. It doesn't matter. Let's see with a cylinder. Cylinder would be the perfect option. I click that. I'm going to draw it just roughly in place. Okay, so clearly this is not perfect at the moment. I'm going to deselect the create tool. I'm going to also put my material on there for modeling. Now for this, you can see it looks a little bit complicated, so let's make the sides less. I wouldn't go more than 32, otherwise you're going to have a very high poly model. And your height segments, for now you want 0 or you want 1, and I'll show you why that is. We're going to be changing this in a moment, and we don't want too many segments when we do that. Now I notice that now we can see, let me just observe. Oh yes, okay, I don't want the back of her head, I actually want the front, and in the other tutorial we did have the front, so let me move that over. Okay, there we go. That's better. So we take our cylinder. I've got the other thing selected now. Okay, we take our cylinder. Now we want the radius to match up to what we need there. Okay. So when I do that, it's matching it in both directions. So we can work on that. Don't worry too much about the side view for this for now. I'm probably just going to squash it a little. I accidentally clicked the wrong button. Let's just go back to left view. Okay, let's squash this a little and get sort of an oblong view, because I think that's what it looks like. Okay, now we can take the top of it and just, well, let's make it a bit shorter. We need it to be the correct size. Like that's about where the bottom should be. I guess you could let it go into the head a bit, it doesn't matter so much, but let's reduce that a bit more to be safe. Okay, so now the interesting stuff starts. Let's fly around it just to get an idea of the shape that it is. Okay, got our head. By the way, Alt W will give you a full screen view of whatever view you're working with. Might make it a bit easier. So now I'm going to convert this to an editable poly, and then everything will start to make sense. Right click on it, convert to editable poly. Okay, I'm going to select edges selector, and just, okay, there's something I want to set up quick. Okay, all I've done is I've gone to my preference settings and I'm turning this on, auto window crossing by direction. So you'll see what it does is it gives you the option of when you change direction, it changes the way it selects. From the left, it only selects things that I have completely within the square, and from the right, it selects everything it touches. So I only want those selected. We could maybe also just rather have selected the poly. Let's turn on edged faces here. Okay, if I have that poly selected, from the top view, I can go and I can now just make this smaller, and then watch your other screens to see whether you've got the right angle. So maybe something like that to get the dress angle correct. Change it a bit. Okay, now I don't want to slide it around. There we go, that's perfect. So now you might want to add some more segments into it, because that's the only reason I had one segment, was to do that. So let's select all the edges, and then you can go down and you're going to select the connect dialog. You move that over. So the connect dialog, you'll see what they see. It puts those lines there. I can ramp them up, ramp them down. You sort of want them to be nice and square. You would need some of them to align to where the belt is. So maybe we should just fiddle with the controls a bit. See if we can get them. There we go. Just so they align with the belt. Okay. So now, to get the bottom of the dress to go in, we're going to rotate to the bottom. I'm going to select that polygon. So we've got the editable poly. Select the polygon, and now we go to all these select tools. We're going to, let me just remember which one. We're going to first use inset. So see what inset does. Let's go to full screen mode to help see this. Inset allows us, see the dialog is still open here, so we can change the amount, but if it changes, you see it takes that outline and it pushes it in a bit. Let's just cancel and redo that to make sure it's all fine. Inset, maybe we want the edge to be slightly smaller. There we go. That's fine, and then let's extrude that. So to see what it does, I'm going to open up the side view and the front view as well. When you click extrude, see now it's pushing out to the bottom there, very far. So let's reduce that, make that a negative so it goes in a little bit. Perfect. So you see what happens now is you've got a slight indent there into the model. Now I might be worried about the angle, so after I've done that, I'm just going to go to the top view again and make that smaller. Make sure that when you do this inset, I just went back a step, that you don't, what we did is we crossed over like that, so we actually had a double layer. So I'm just going to redo the last 2 steps quick while I pause. Okay, that's fine, I redid those steps. So now you see I've inset it and extruded it, and now I'm just going to, with that top poly still selected, I'm going to make it smaller. Let's just switch back to the front view here. I'm going to make that poly smaller. It's not showing, I must have the wrong poly selected now. There we go, that's the correct one. I'm going to make it smaller to make sure that it runs parallel inside the dress, especially later when you do maybe a little bit smaller, so when you do deformations it won't touch the edges. So a lot of the textures are being done with mapping, and I was tempted to also just put the belt on as a map, but I'm going to, instead of doing that, I decided just to model it. So we can select our model, select the polygon select tool, and I want all the polygons in this area. Okay, there we go, we've got them selected, and we're going to extrude them very slightly. Let's just maybe zoom in on that a bit. Well, that might be the wrong option in this case. Let's just see. Okay, we've got extrude by group. Okay, it's lost our selection. Let's just do that again. I see it's going to select those polys on the inside as well, which is not ideal. Let's see. To make it a bit easier, I've turned on ignore back facing in the polygon controls, and we're just going to, I just scrolled around the model a little bit, and I hold down control and keep selecting until I've got all the polys I want. So we've got nothing else here. Now we want to extrude that a bit. Remember, it's going to be a very slight amount. So let's reduce that to almost 0. Seems to be going in the wrong direction. Local normal. There we go. When it's set to local normal, you can see on the top view that it's expanding. It's going outwards. So we really want that to be a very small number because we don't want the belt to stick out excessively. Like you can see, that's already way too much. Let's just type it in 0.1. This will depend on the size of your model, what size you were working on when you started. Let's try maybe 0.2 if that's not too extreme. 1.5. That should be a good medium. Okay, accepted. Okay, that's the end of part 1. We'll go continue modeling in part 2. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below, tell us what you think, click the like button below. Otherwise, you can follow us and send us messages on our Facebook pages. We've got 2 of them, our Twitter, the Instagram, the YouTube channel, or our traditional website if you like that kind of thing.
This video is awesome. PeachyDragon.com. Happy creative stuff.